In the silent film, there's endless potential for universality. Story not hindered by linguistic differences, giving itself to the expressions and feelings of actors and mise-en-scene. But few directors have used this mantra, as well as F.W Murnau, culminating in some of the most modern feeling films of the silent period. Here are 3 of them. The story of Nosferatu is likely one known to all, even those who have never seen the film, so strong is its influence on the following decades of horror vampire cinema. Falling within the peak of German expressionism, Murnau and Nosferatu introduced to the screen the figure of the vampire, the undead bloodsucker, whose abstractness, him as the embodiment of the unknown, makes him a figure that can stand for virtually anything, inviting numerous readings of Orlok that range from presentiments of Nazism to impersonal capital and its destruction of small business and communion. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Murnau opted for various on-location shootings in order to further the contrast between the natural and the unnatural. The first encounter with Orlok follows a travel montage along the real Romanian fields and helps the initial shock stand out even further, especially if compared to other expressionistic films of the time such as Das Kabinett des Dr. Caligari, Wiener's 1920 masterpiece, where the entire world is always warped and never-ending nightmare, or From Morn to Midnight, where the same is the case. In her study on the German director, Lotte Eisner spoke of Murnau's editing, which alongside the aforementioned helped make Orlok stand out as a threat. His simple cut increases his size by tenfold, while the scene retains all prior fluidity. Likewise is achieved during the parallel editing during Orlok's travel to the small port town, where Murnau intercuts between Orlok Thomas and his wife Ellen, introducing her into the triangle. By virtue of having her wait by the beachside, frame as the maiden ready to extinguish Orlok's strife, to repent for Thomas' mistake. In The Last Laugh, an aging porter of a transnational hotel conglomerate is fired after his employer senses a sign of decrepitude in him. Instead of telling his family about the incident, his prideful self steals the uniform and pretends as if he is still the porter, whilst in actuality having been relegated to bathroom duties. In other hands, this appears a tale told in 5 minutes, when Murnau extracts the maximum of psychology out of each twist, each turn, culminating in 90 minutes that breeze past, as much a critique on the callousness of modern capitalism as it is a commentary on the German obsession with their work. He is symbolized by the uniform. It may not give the porter superpowers, but makes him feel as if it does. Wearing it, he saunters with a pride in him, paired with a certain arrogance, noticeable in the way he heartily greets fellow workers, but particularly in the sequences where he's stripped of the uniform, with Murnau and Freund shooting him hunched over, sprayed across the screen, a shell of himself. Due to the relative simplicity of narrative, Murnau famously obviates intertitles, which only appear by the end, announcing the parody of a happy ending. The rest of the film successfully relies on Emil Jannings. Another great achievement is the unchained camera, which Murnau and cameraman Karl Freund have invented here. A camera that, unlike the staticness of the past, where movement was fixed and bound at best to tracks, is now moving freely. This was achieved by planting Freud and the camera on a bike, or strapping it to Freund's belly and having him walk around. A revelation in cinema whose importance may be neglected given how commonplace it appears today. Like Nosferatu, Last Laugh is not bound to one style. Itself is a combination of the artificial Kammerspiel-adjacent sets that presents us with an urban realism, shiny streets and opalescent mirrors making up the frames, and classic expressionism in the porter's various nightmare sequences. Though he became known for this artificiality, meticulous lighting in each scene, Murnau told Robert Herf, set designer on various of his films, that one day he would obviate the need for all artificial lights, and moved towards a pure naturalism. We laughed then, but when we saw his masterpiece Tabu, we were astonished to see that he had kept his word. Tabu tells the story of two lovers on the Polynesian islands torn apart by fate, turned into fugitives, forcing them to alternate between two islands, on both of whom their purity is imperiled. Following his Hollywood exit after disputes concerning sound implementations in his films, Murnau fled the country and, alongside fellow director and documentarian Robert Flaherty, boarded a cruise along the Polynesian islands. The two men came to quarrel over time, a reciprocated animosity inaugurated by differing ideas as to what the film was going to be. Flaherty wanted a documentary, whilst Murnau wished to film a feature. Murnau got his wish, a silent film at that, like all of his prior films, unique for existing within a time period where humanity obsessed over sound. But words do play a role here nonetheless. Classic intertitles are lacking, and whenever text appears, usually in the form of a letter or bills, they convey a threat, thereby equating the intertitle, or rather the word, in a medium of images as the enemy, as suspicious. Murnau was not opposed to sound per se, he was eager to study it as letters show, but before he could have the chance to, tragedy struck, and a week before the premiere, Tabu, he would die in a car crash.